Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. There were two kings in the White House today, according to the White House. That was the message the administration put out into the world today as Donald Trump met with King Charles III of Great Britain. You see them there just moments ago entering the White House for dinner. It is ostensibly all to mark America's 250 years of independence from royal rule. And the White House put out this photo of the two men on stage with the words, two kings and a crown emoji. They're trolling, yes, but not really. We all know Trump's kingly demands. He wants a ballroom built and his enemies persecuted. And as both of these whims dominated the headlines today, millions of Americans learned about the other breaking news, the real stuff. Today, U.S. gas prices hit their highest level since Trump launched his ridiculous, counterproductive war on Iran. A single-day jump of 1.6%. The average cost for a gallon of regular gasoline is now $4.18, according to the AAA. It's wholly gone up because of Donald Trump launching the war. There's nothing else happening that had made it jump that much. And it's just the most tangible example of all the ways that Trump and the Republican Party have acted affirmatively at almost every crossroads to make prices higher for people. When all anyone says in any poll or focus group across the political spectrum is, for the love of God, things are too expensive. That includes today in the New York Times, where a dozen unhappy Trump voters shared their concerns. Quote, life is becoming more and more unaffordable. Prices are high as ever. We're headed in the wrong direction. Those were Trump's voters. And all he and Republicans are doing with the power those voters gave them in Washington is finding new ways to make things more expensive. It's truly astounding. Late last week, the CEO of United Airlines said on an earnings call the company was already jacking ticket prices as much as 20% to offset rising fuel prices from the war in Iran, the ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Today, the CEO of the European airline Ryanair said fuel costs could break much of the commercial air industry in Europe within months.
If pricing stays higher for longer this summer, we think a number of our airline competitors in Europe are going to face real financial kind of July, August, September. Then you'll see European airlines fail.
Again, gas prices are surging for one reason only. Because Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz and the 20% of global oil and gas gets shipped through it. Before Trump's war, well, Trump and Netanyahu's war, let's give full credit here, 150 ships a day passed through that strait freely. Today, just 6 commercial ships passed through the strait, according to NBC News. The Iranian news agency says one of them was a Japanese tanker that paid Iran a toll in Chinese currency. And now, to make matters even worse on this single part of the fallout from this war, right, that most people are going to experience, gas prices, Trump has decided the U.S. is going to do its own blockade to blockade Iran's blockade of the strait. That bottleneck is causing global shortages, massive disruptions in billions of lives. I mean, people could die from starvation because of fertilizer shortages. Like this could get really out of control. There's also an interesting other phenomena happening, which is that governments and consumers are starting to shift decidedly against combustion engines. Why should we depend on this commodity that goes up in price? Pivoting to electric cars and renewable energies. They're doing that just as the Trump administration is announcing another deal to pay two energy companies nearly $1 billion of federal money, our money, to pay them to stop building wind farms, to not bring new clean energy onto the grid and to shift to oil and gas. So here we are. Donald Trump launched a war against Iran 3 months ago. He can't figure out how to kind of actually end it, right? It's in this tenuous, frozen conflict ceasefire. And he can't because, frankly, he's manifestly bored by the whole thing. He's over it. He has much more important things on his mind, like a grand golden ballroom where the East Wing used to be. And Republicans are now committed to indulging him with your money.
We're going to introduce legislation that would authorize $400 million to be spent to secure to build the presidential ballroom.
I support Trump building a ballroom, yes, of course, especially after this weekend. I'm working on legislation to ensure that we are getting the ballroom funded. It's obviously a national security element to that, and it needs to be done.
This has to be addressed. At a minimum, we have to have a safe place to protect the President of the United States and the cabinet officials if they want to gather, or there's a state dinner.
Boy, how did 2.5 centuries of American presidents ever handle a state dinner without this ballroom? And as Republicans rush to use our money that could go for a million different things, right? For a new wing in Versailles for the would-be king, our Justice Department is being turned into a private vengeance squad for enemies of the court. Trump's Department of Justice indicted former FBI Director James Comey again. This comes after a judge tossed the first transparently ludicrous, politically motivated prosecution against him last year. Comey's now facing charges related to this now deleted Instagram photo he posted last May, of shells on a beach spelling out the message 8647. The claim, literally spelled out in the indictment, is that this was James Comey threatening to murder the president. He was indicted today for those seashells. Even Trump's acting attorney general, his former criminal defense attorney, Todd Blanche, had a little trouble sounding confident about the case today.
There's been a tremendous amount of investigation. And how do you prove intent in any case? You prove intent with witnesses, with documents, with the defendant himself to the extent it's appropriate. And that's how we'll prove intent in this case.
Really? Going to prove intent that he was posting that on Instagram for everyone to say to threaten the president with violence, the former director of the FBI? That was his intent. That's what you're going to prove. I don't think the federal case is going to survive very long, but it's what Trump wants. Just as like he has always wanted ABC's late night host Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. He tried last year. They kind of got their butts kicked, brushed back quite a bit. Now he's trying again. On Monday, the president and First Lady Melania Trump put out separate posts calling for Kimmel's firing over a one-line joke he told last week. Today, like clockwork, in an obvious appeal to the boss, Trump's FCC, led by his handpicked chairman, Brendan Carr, the guy who basically talked about doing it the easy way or the hard way the last time with Jimmy Kimmel, announced they were breaking protocol to review the broadcast licenses of ABC's top 8 network affiliates in major cities from New York to LA. On a right-wing podcast today, which is the same place he got himself in trouble in the past, Carr suggested the incredibly sudden license review as part of a deeper probe into parent company Disney for its DEI policies. SEC Commissioner Ana Gomez is joining us later in the show to discuss Trump's war on Kimmel. And we're going to be speaking with Congressman Jamie Raskin shortly on the new indictment of James Comey. But all of this Mad King behavior, all of these obsessions, that's what Trump occupies himself with now. That's where he's focused. You can get this guy to talk about, like, opening the Strait of Hormuz or, financial policy, economic policy. He wants the ballroom. He wants the people he hates to suffer. He wants his face and signature on American passports. Not making this one up. Here's what that might look like, according to images released by the State Department today. Our nearly 80-year-old president's authoritarian obsession with remaking America in his weird and warped image is consuming him and distracting him from, again, I can't emphasize this enough, the enormous international crisis he caused and that still is there. And the lasting tangible damage that is doing around the world from the Middle East to the middle of your driveway.